Welcome back to the inaugural episode of Real Estate for the Real Good. I'm Nathan Karsten, your host, a North Texas realtor, firefighter, and real estate investor. Throughout my real estate journey, I've witnessed the transformative potential that real estate offers individuals, families, and communities. Whether you're considering buying your first primary residence amidst today's challenging market, pondering the idea of investing in real estate for financial growth, or simply seeking to use your home to bless others intentionally, this podcast is for you. Normally, I'll have the pleasure of co-hosting this show with my wife, Kristen. However, today, we have a special guest co-host, my 10-year-old son, Brady. I just couldn't pass up the opportunity for us to learn together today from our father-son guests who are just a few steps ahead of our current season of life. In today's episode, which is part 2, we'll be diving into the heart of Jacob's story. If you haven't already, I highly recommend tuning in to episode 1A for the full context of Jacob's background and upbringing. It'll provide a solid foundation for what's to come. In both episodes, he'll be sharing how he cleverly turned his first home into an investment property during his college years. Remarkably, Jacob defied the norm, steering clear of the burden of student loan debt, and instead successfully graduated college from the University of Oklahoma with a positive GPA and net worth. Stay tuned as Jacob reveals his story of acquiring, leasing, and managing the property with minimal initial investment. This brilliant approach not only allowed Jacob to enjoy 3 rent-free years during his university life, but also led to significant appreciation in the value of his home. While Part A's focus was on Jacob's upbringing in his parents' home, a vital foundation that prepared him to independently own and manage property at such a young age. Today, we'll get into the numbers and details to provide real-life insights. We'll talk down payment assistance for first-time homebuyers, co-signing on a mortgage, cash flow, return on investment, managing tenants, and we'll even touch on facing the unexpected, like a tornado hitting your house. So get ready for an inspiring and informative ride as we unravel Jacob's extraordinary real estate journey. Let's change gears here a little bit and really get into some of the details on you purchasing your home. So just from the beginning, you graduated high school. Yep. You're 18 years old, and you're living in Keller, Argyle at the time, in DFW, in your parents' house, and you're moving to University of Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. What were your thoughts around buying instead of moving? You know, what many I think kids would do is kids. I should say young men, young adults going to college. Either moving into a dorm or just renting. What were your thoughts on that, and maybe even kind of if you had any fears going into that situation?
Yeah, so coming out of high school, I had the unique opportunity. Air Force is always kind of what I've wanted to do, and so being able to put in for the scholarship and be able to get that kind of started the foundation for all of this. There were a lot of times and instances even with that where God was leading and kind of just showing us the way to go, but the University of Oklahoma does have a requirement that you live in the dorms for your first year. So I did live in the dorms my first year.
That's great.
So that was 100% required. We really at this point hadn't even thought about what I would do afterwards. It was just kind of getting through the first year. I was the first one to do anything like that, to go to a big university, to go live in the dorms, we were all just figuring it out at the same time.
Yeah. Even to rewind a little bit, as he was growing up and being raised, I talked to him about college and him going to college, and he wanted to go to college and get a degree because he wanted to be a pilot, and you had to have a degree for that. But I told him from the beginning, if you're going to school, it's not going to come out of my pocket. I'll help you out in some ways. As far as like a community college, I can help you pay for that, but you're going to have to work and you're going to have to earn your way through school. If you earn a scholarship, then that's even better. And so he knew that going into it. And so his choices as he grew up through school were to set him up for that, for some type of scholarship to be able to get his school paid for. Yeah. And so that's where he started. He was able to do that and earn that ROTC scholarship to pay for 4 years of school. All of the schooling was paid for. The only thing that wasn't included was living expenses, room and board.
Right. Okay.
So his freshman year, like you said, he had to live on campus. And so we told him, since you earned a scholarship, we're not putting a dime towards school. We really weren't paying for anything for him. We paid for his the room and board for that freshman year.
Do you remember what it was? Was it a monthly payment? Was it a semester payment?
No, it's a semester payment. So you got to have a big chunk of cash up front ready by September, I think, is when the payment was due for the first semester. And then the next semester is probably by February. You have to have it all paid. So
room and board, that's obviously a bed to sleep in. And then was that their food included?
Yes, all the food was included and a bed to sleep in. And I want to say for a year was about $11,000.
Yeah. So getting close. And that's for not 9 months. About
9 months out of the year.
2 semesters.
Two semesters.
So that was all the food and everything. We go to the dining facilities and we can eat as much as we want, whenever we want. That type of stuff really kind of moving us from being high school students into being responsible adults, but they took care of a lot of the things for us while we're learning how to study, etc. That's kind of the whole goal behind all of it.
I feel like that's a good transition to stay in a dorm for that first year.
Yeah, so
we got to meet so many people too.
And so that's coming out to about $1,100 a month or so.
Yeah,
and that's obviously it's a pretty big chunk of money, but it, like you're saying, as a young adult transitioning directly out of your parents' house, it was a great place to be. You didn't have to worry about all the details. You're already figuring out how to do school yourself.
Be away from parents.
It's all self-starting. It's all it's all the responsibility as far as carrying your coursework. So that's great.
Yeah, if I could rewind a little bit too, we did have the discussion before going to school. I'd always grown up thinking that I was going to go to the Air Force Academy. That's something that if you get in and you're able to actually go there, then it's all completely covered. And so that was part of it. And then we were talking to some people from church, and they told us about this option with the ROTC because I knew I wanted to fly for the Air Force. I knew I wanted to serve, and aviation's always been something that was a source of wonder for me. But looking at going to the academy, for me, my little brother was starting high school same time I would be starting there, and when you're there, you just don't get to see your family much. You're stuck there. It's a military academy. It's just how it goes. So I've been searching for a different way to do it, to be able to be around them, but also realize those types of dreams. So we came across this path, and when we did have that conversation, it was kind of, hey, you get a full ride or you're not going to a big university off rip. That's just not something that we're going to do. You're not going to be able to pay for that off rip, and we're not going to do that just because it's just not the way that we were going to do it. And so this is really a story of listening to God, because when it came down to it and applying for the scholarship, it was just a couple percent of people that even get the scholarship to begin with. And then on top of that, I didn't want to be an engineering major, which increases your chances probably 10-20 fold of getting this scholarship. Right. And I did the engineering track and stuff like that through high school. Very blessed to have the opportunities that I did in high school to work on robotics and things like that. And I had the mind for it. I was good at it, but I didn't enjoy it. I hated it. And I knew that if I went to college, I wouldn't have loved it, and I may not have finished it just because it wasn't something that I enjoyed. But actually, through working with you guys on Christmas lights a little bit, and also working and detailing cars with my dad, I knew that I liked the business side of things. I liked making money for myself. I liked being able to do those types of things and be in control of when I worked, how I worked. And I was like, hey, a couple of schools actually offer like entrepreneurship majors. I'd never heard of that because I didn't, I thought about going to the academy, and when you go there, it's kind of you do what you're told to do, which is great for some, but for me, I didn't necessarily want to do that as much as I wanted to be around my little brother. But I distinctly remember, I think this is one of the first things that I ever truly went against my dad's, word was going for the business degree, because even the colonel that I talked to, I had an interview with the colonel about getting this scholarship. He was like, hey man, like if you think that you can like graduate with an engineering degree, go ahead and put that down, because you're you will get a scholarship. You've got the resume for it and everything, but you're going to throw that all away if you, go for the business one, because nobody gets that. That doesn't happen.
On the scholarship, it says mechanical engineering, aerospace engineering, all these different engineering, or you just check the box that says other. It's terrible. It's like, you'll never get a scholarship.
It said even like meteorology. It said like meteorology, like all the things that the Air Force is like fighting for. They need these types of people and everything. And then it was literally just a box that said other. It wasn't even specified for business or for entrepreneurship. It, like, you get lumped in with underwater basket weaving. You get lumped in with, everybody else. And with no real, guide for them to show, okay, this is what you're trying to do. It's just other. And then, like, I remember my code for my, what's it called? Everybody gets like ME something, what, like mechanical engineering something. Mine was OGYY. It was just other, like, it's literally just nothing. It didn't stand for anything. And it's just like, they just type numbers in there. They put, and so
I mean, walk through that decision process a little bit as far as like, everybody's telling you, I need to do this thing, but what's allowing me to take this other direction?
And so this is just one of the things that it really was following God, because so for me, I prayed about it, and man, everybody was saying just do engineering. And for me, it makes sense. We've always been very logical thinkers and thinking, okay, hey, if you got a better chance of doing this, it's a means to an end. You can do it for 4 years and you can get your scholarship and go fly. You never have to do anything after that has to do with engineering at all. The colonel told me the same thing. He was like, hey man, get your degree, go fly. Like, you don't ever have to be an engineer. You don't ever have to do anything related to it. I think the stat is like 80% of college graduates never do anything related to their actual major. And it's even more so with the military. If we get a job like that, we're not, if I'm flying, I'm not the one designing the planes anymore. I'm just flying them. And so that's what everybody told me. And they're like, you can do it, like, just suffer through it, even if you don't like it, whatever, just because it made sense. And for me, it made sense too. But there was something that, was holding me back, because really, truly, like, in high school, I was really good. Like, I had 99s and 100s in all my engineering classes. Like, I had the mind for it. It just made sense. I didn't have to do the homework and stuff like that to get it. And so looking at it logically, it made sense. Right? I can do it. I can get through it and I'll be good. But after praying about it and stuff, it was kind of one of those things that God said, just trust me. Just trust me. And so for me, it really was, it felt like giving it all up. Because everybody said it's you're throwing it away. Like, you are not going to get the scholarship. And even if you do, it's going to be probably the half scholarship, because they did offer that as an option. It's they pay for some.
I can remember all those.
I know you were there. Yeah, exactly.
It's great.
And but the half scholarship, probably we probably could have made that work, but that was kind of what we had discussed though, is it was either community college or, get it all paid for. And so I would have had to find a different route. And so with that, it was just like, hey, this is in your hands, God. Like, this doesn't make any sense. It shouldn't happen. But if it does, I know that it's you, and that you were the one giving me this opportunity. And so throwing it out there, I remember checking the box. I had to scroll all the way to the bottom. I'm sitting there on my computer forever, and I'd put my, favorite universities and where I wanted to go. I'd put all my stats in there. I'd put how much community service I had, my GPA in high school, my, varsity track and football and that type of stuff on there. Put my whole resume on there, ready to go. And the last thing that I did, even though it was at the very top, of the thing. It's supposed to be the first thing that you pick, the easiest thing that you pick. This is the last thing that I did. And I went on there and I scrolled all the way to the bottom and I picked OGYY, other. And I submitted it, and then it was just waiting from there. And I really don't even remember a whole lot of stress after doing it, because I remember the interview, we were sitting there, they were trying to help prep me for the interview, and I was just like, I was a mess. Like, I started crying while we were talking. Like, I'm 18 at this point, and but I was a mess. I was like, I don't know how to do this. I've got to go talk to somebody that's in the military, a colonel at that. I've never been around anybody like that in the military, and just super stressed out. But after I submitted it, it really, for me, I don't remember there was a whole lot. It was like, hey, it's done. It's in God's hands. You can't do
Yeah.
anything about it from this point.
And that's that place of surrender.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what it was. It
Yeah.
was surrendering everything that I
Yeah.
knew that I had wanted to do to something that really seemed impossible, because I remember getting back. So I was walking down the stairs and he was at work when the email popped up. I was like, because I don't even, it's from like Colonel Alaman or something like that, but it was a government email. And I was like, I don't get those normally.
Yeah.
So like those don't usually come through. So I was like, I think this is it. So I sat down on the stairs, started scrolling through. I saw all the stuff at the top and scrolled through and looked on there, and it said, congratulations, you've been awarded with the Type 7, which Type 7 is a full ride scholarship to any university that will offer you in-state tuition.
Yeah.
And I just sat there and I just smiled, and I immediately called him. I still had the email pulled up and called him, and I was like, dude, I got it. And he was like, nah, you're lying. Like, are you serious? Like, blah, blah, blah. And we were just pumped, and my mom came, she was crying. We were sitting there on the stairs, and I didn't move for a little while, because it was just like,
it's so good.
Man, God is so good. But then I looked at the stats after that. It was like 0.25% of people got the scholarship that I got in that year. Like nobody got to, and so I was wide open. And I've actually seen it a lot with people that got locked into a specific degree. They went to college, and then while they were there, they didn't like the scholarship the major plan that they had. And if you switch your major, you lose your entire scholarship and you have to pay it all back. And so, that I was like, golly, I'm glad I didn't do that, because I also saw a lot of my friends that were engineering majors, and they're, just, they didn't love it. But they did it for the scholarship. Sure. And for me, I was like, I'm so glad that I did exactly what I did. And but that's 100% God and listening to him. And I think that perfectly leads into the rest of the story and how the rest of it came about. But
just being able to trust him.
Yeah, because I think part of that, not having that engineering degree, gave him the time to be able to invest in this house and do what it took to be able to have a home.
Exactly.
It's great. Yeah. So you've got your full ride scholarship.
Yep.
You've gone through your first year at OU, living in the dorms.
Yep.
What's happening in the summer after your freshman year that's causing you to make the decision towards purchasing a home?
Yeah. So this actually started during the school year. Me and my dad. So people are crazy, like at the university. Like, so I'm not even thinking about the next year yet. I'm just, enjoying where I'm at, making new friends and stuff like that. And it's only like November of like our first semester, right? And people are saying, hey, like, if you got your apartment yet? Like, they're all filling up. I was like, the heck are you talking about? Like, are you like, we've got almost another year and they're almost all filled up. What do you mean? And they're just like, yeah, this is just how it works. And so a lot of the people that I went to school with, or their parents are alumni, they're, whatever it's called, that they've, their legacies or whatever.
Sure.
Their parents gone there, and so they understand how it works. Exactly. And so their parents have already, prepaid for their living for the next 2-3 years. And so they're ready to go. They're good. They're like, hey, if you want to live with us or something like that, you need to get on this lease like within the next month. And I'm like, this is November. Are you kidding? Like, we're still talking about like paying for room and board next semester. Yeah. And I got to like figure out how to do this. And, so then I called my dad, and he was kind of the same reaction. Like, wait, like already? Like, this is how it's going? Like, that's wild. Okay, cool. What do we do? And I remember we had this, what I would do, I was super skinny going into college. And so I wanted to bulk up. So I would legitimately, me and my buddy would spend like 2-3 hours in the dining hall, because it was buffet style, all you could eat. We have the only buffet style Chick-fil-A in the world at the University of Oklahoma.
Nice.
So we can go up and get 6 chicken sandwiches.
All the chicken nuggets.
All the nuggets, all the fries.
Brady's like, I'm going there.
You want to go to OU, and it's because we also have the world's largest Cane's on campus corner right there. Yeah. So if you want to go to the University of Oklahoma, that's why you go. Okay. But no, so the Chick-fil-A and the Cane's, why else? But no, it was awesome, and so the food was great, and I would have legitimately, I've got pictures of it, of me and my buddy would kill plates that are this high. Yeah. Like the plates are about this big, and we would go through about 10-13 plates each. We would just keep going. And we'd do all our homework in there. Like that was our sanctuary, because for me, I lived in Couch Tower, which is right next to the CAF.
Okay.
So I would literally walk out of my dorm, and the opening to this massive buffet is right there. And they've got everything from, I could have 6 different meals at once. They had Italian, they had Greek, they had, just good old like home style. They had chicken fried chicken, and then they had like the healthy stuff that was in the middle and everything. But so I would just sit there and just eat, and I'd be like, hey, maybe feel like pizza right now, or I want, just a big old thing of chicken right now. And so I'd go and I'd get it all at the same time, and I'd have like 4 cups of water and just be crushing it. But that's where I remember all my conversations about, where I was going to live and stuff like that happened. I remember when the idea kind of came about, we were talking about, not paying for school. This is the only thing that we're going to end up paying for, and stuff like that. The only thing that I'd be responsible for, as far as like financially while I'm in college. And then what it means to, pay rent to somebody else, to pay rent to an apartment. Yeah. So the same things that he said that he was learning from, the older guys at the station, he was able to share with me, hey, like just a random shot in the dark. He was like, what if we just bought a house, And so then from there, that kind of like,
got the wheels
I could
turning.
do that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so for me, like it was kind of a shot in the dark for him, and we were still looking at spots, but it turned on like a light in my head from there. So I started looking, I started doing the numbers and stuff like that. And, I'm using all my business classes and whatever I'm learning from there, but more so just started looking at it. I was like, okay, I could pay this much for an apartment, or, if I get this many bedrooms in my house, I can rent them out to these people. And then now I don't have to pay for anything.
Yeah.
And so that's all it really started out of is a way to get, so like completely transparently, it didn't start out as, it'll be this great investment, it'll set you up for your future.
Right.
The thing for me,
I gotta have a place to live.
Yeah. Well,
and
that
stuff's filling up.
And then also just like being fiscally responsible of money in, money out. You throw money into an apartment, it never comes back out.
Right.
But even if I am paying a portion of my mortgage, if I'm paying the same as the other guys that are living in there, I can get all that money back at the end.
Right.
And the cool thing is I had some friends that I was close with and stuff. And I was like, man, these people are paying like $600, $700, $800 a month to go live with 4 other people in a trashed out apartment and like the place isn't maintained all that well. Yeah. And like I've been to some of those places and I don't necessarily care to live there. Yeah. I'd also wanted a dog too. It's like, you got to either pay extra to do that, and I wanted a pit bull, and most places didn't even.
And when you're running your numbers, you're calculating. Did you have an idea of what your house was going to cost, what your mortgages were going to be, and then before you actually got into the house and had some roommates, what were your projections on
utilities and stuff like that?
Well, your projections on your mortgage compared to what the rent you'd be bringing in.
So that was the cool thing too, is once I started running the numbers with it, I found out that not only would I be able to benefit from this, I'd be able to help my friends out too, because I could charge them $550 a month. Yeah. And so now they've got a house where I'm technically the landlord, so they can paint the walls, they can, hang stuff on the walls, do whatever they want. They can put up a TV, which you can't do it all these other places. Right. And they've got a backyard. Yeah. So they've got a garage, they've got all the different things. Yeah. And so I was like, man, I can help them out at the same time as helping myself out too. Yeah. But yeah, looking at the numbers, I started out 4 bedrooms are like almost impossible to find in the Norman area, because most of them are already bought up to be rent houses, you know what I mean? And so that is what I found out, is when we were looking at, okay, what can we afford to go in on at the beginning, versus how much can we realistically charge for that. 4 bedroom looked like the sweet spot. 3 bedroom could have worked. It could have been good, but I would have had to pay some, and so my goal was to be able to make a little bit monthly, or at least break even to where I'm free.
And the 3 bedroom market, the price is about the same as a 4 bedroom anyway. Okay. So we thought, if he's renting out rooms, why not go for the 4?
Right, exactly.
And really it started as a way to save money, because we started putting the numbers together. It's like, man, it's going to be a probably about $800 a month.
Yeah.
to rent a one room,
One room out of a 4-bedroom apartment that you share with the other guys.
share a bathroom.
And so then with utilities and everything like that, it is probably around 8. And that's on the lower end because there's definitely more expensive ones than that.
Yeah, I have friends that are paying $1,200-$1,300 a month every month of all 4 years of college.
So I started looking. The real estate there was not crazy. This is late 2019, early 2020.
Yeah.
And so we, decided, looking at it, running the numbers, what mortgage would be, things like that. And so we started looking for 4 bedrooms early in 2020 with an idea of, here's how much it'll be if you have these 3 roommates, then you can get away with not having to pay anything.
Right.
And I mean, that's appealing for myself.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
exactly.
So that's kind of just where it started.
Yeah, that's where it's...
Of course, little did we know that, COVID was going to happen and all of those type of things. Yeah. So as we're looking early 2020, COVID hits and the real estate market was crazy. Like it was hard to find things.
Yeah. Yep.
And so we'd go up there.
Everybody's trying to get out of the apartments all of a sudden to get to a house.
Yeah. Yep. And, we didn't know the future as far as what interest rates were going to do in the future, all those things. But as we were looking, we would drive up there, look at a place, and then it's already under contract.
Yeah.
And we'd go back over there. We made several trips with a realtor. We had a great realtor that was based out of Norman.
Shout out to Carol. She was awesome.
Yeah.
Carol helped us quite a bit.
What's her name?
Carol. Yeah.
Carol what? Do we remember?
I can't remember her last name. But
maybe we can put it. Maybe if we have show notes for our show, I'll put it in the notes.
Yeah, there you go. We'll help you find her name.
Yeah, her and her daughter are both realtors in Norman.
Okay.
And the OKC-ish area, and they both helped us. So
the
daughter would tag team with us.
Even
she
explain
would come
that a little more. As a first time home buyer, how what suggestions or education were they really able to give you?
When to start, and then I'll let you take over. But when we made that decision, I said, okay, here's what you need to do. You need to find a realtor that's good, that's in the local area.
Yeah.
One you feel comfortable with, and then go from there and let them kind of guide you as far as what the market's like. And so he had to search. I don't know how many you looked through. I remember you met with a couple of realtors.
Yeah. And so with that, he started telling me about that, and I started looking. I just go online like Realtor Norman, Oklahoma, because I don't know what else to do. Just looking online and Google, and started looking at the different ones. And I set up phone calls with like 6 of them, whatever.
That's great. And
talked to some of them, and explain my situation. And the ones that they're kind of just like, oh, okay, yeah, for sure, let's get you a house. It's like, I need you to understand what I'm doing here, because I need to be able to trust you, because I don't live here already.
So good. I mean? So wise.
And because we got kicked out of our dorms, and we were living at home doing virtual, right?
Yeah.
Virtual learning. And so I'm already back with them. And and so looking at that, I was like, I need somebody that I can trust, kind of see on my behalf and stuff like that. And then one of them that I talked to was Carol. She's an older lady, super sweet, but also very intentional. She talked to me. She was like, okay, so what are you trying to do? What do you need? What is this? And she made sure that she, became me for the negotiations for viewing homes. There was multiple times that she would go to homes for me, and she would be like, you're not going to like that one. Okay, this is a good one. We pulled up together to one. And she was like, nope, we're not going in there. It's not good enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she would be like, oh, I know the realtor's selling this one. They're going to try and add some stuff to it or whatever. You're not in the spot to be able to do that. Cool. We'll go to a different one. And so it was perfect, but I could see that from the beginning of the way that she handled the interactions.
And I think that's so great. Just, we want to highlight that for others looking to do something similar to you, especially if they don't have a lot of experience in buying or selling real estate, is not only just having a realtor, but what I think you did so well, and what a lot of people don't do is they hear the first name of a realtor that they have heard of, or they just because they know someone who's a realtor, without taking that next step that you did to really interview. I'm going to call a few, and I'm going to get a feel, I have enough sense in me to know who's really looking out for my interests. I may not know exactly what I need in this real estate transaction, but I do know I can figure out who I can trust.
Exactly.
And so finding that that realtor that was going to listen to what you actually needed.
Yeah.
And for you, it's something very particular. It's not just any house. We
Yeah.
need to find a house that's gonna do well with
Yeah.
being able to rent by the room.
Yeah.
With this strategy.
No, and I think an even bigger part of like trusting God was being able to somehow convince the guys that were going to live with me to not sign any contracts and just believe
that's
me.
a big deal. Yeah.
Because we bought the house in July. We bought the
Okay.
house in July.
Okay.
We started school in August.
yeah.
And so every point from probably January, February forward was just like, hey guys, like this is happening
yeah.
and I need you to trust me.
Because they're
Like,
hearing all the same stuff that everybody else is. Everybody else
well,
got their
stuff's
apartments
crazy,
back in November.
You know,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
COVID's
That's what I
going
mean.
on.
And so the cool thing was most of them, well, one of them was transferring to OU. And
Okay.
I actually was able to convince him to transfer to OU so that he could be my third roommate.
Okay.
He went to high school with me, great kid and everything. And he was looking at different universities and stuff. And so I started talking to him. I was like, hey man, like I know that OU is a little bit more expensive than some of the other places that you're looking at, but we'll be able to help you out by giving you a cheaper rent.
yeah.
And also he was kind of interested in Air Force as well.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma does an awesome thing that anybody in Oklahoma that joins our RTC program gets to pay in state.
Okay.
And
yeah.
so I was like,
That's great.
in your first year here, you won't have any contract. You won't have any, requirement to serve if
Yeah.
you don't like it.
You get to come
So
in and
you
try
can
it
come
out.
in here
Yeah.
trial basis. And you get in-state tuition and we'll
Yeah.
be able to help you out on your rent and stuff like that. And he was like, you know what? That sounds like a great idea. Talked his parents into it. Cool. The other one was my best friend from high school, played football with him all the way from middle school up, stuff like that. We both ended up going to university. He was my roommate in the dorms my first year. And so talked to him. He knew he could trust me. And so he was like, cool. Another one was just one of my buddies that I'd made. And he was able to talk his parents into it too. Just like, hey, trust this kid.
Yeah.
Honestly, like we knew by God that it was going to happen,
Right.
but we didn't know how it was going to happen
Yeah.
because the reality of things is we were like,
Yeah.
we were planning it out and we are like, okay, let's try to, have something
Yeah.
bought or under contract by May.
Yep.
That was like kind of the goal, like
Mhm.
get it
Yeah.
done by like the end of this semester
Yeah.
so that we can kind of set
Yeah.
up over the summer
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But like you said, these houses were getting bought up like
Yeah.
crazy. Like
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like,
it would be quick. And so that was part of the deal with meeting with Carol.
yeah.
We drove up there probably 3 or 4
3 or 4
trips. We'd
times.
go
Yeah.
look at houses with her.
Yeah.
And finally, just getting to know her, she was great, took the time, intentional.
Yeah.
And so she knew by that time.
She
Here's
could
what
walk
they
in.
like.
She could walk into a house by herself
could
without
tell.
y'all, and she
Yes.
knows what
And
you're
she
gonna.
could tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
what we would like.
She
or
would
not.
FaceTime me. It was so funny. Trying to like,
So-
yeah, she was working with the FaceTime and stuff, but yeah, it was awesome.
So now we got COVID going. School shuts down. They can't go back to school.
There's no open houses either. It's just like
yeah.
you had to schedule viewings and
Yeah, the
everything.
open
It was
houses were
weird.
pretty strict.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now we're getting closer. Now we're into May. It's getting to June,
Yeah.
and we're like, I got Jake counting on me. We got these other 3 guys counting on him because they trust him that if he said that it was going to happen,
Yeah.
it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And all I knew is that if God said it was going to happen, it's going to happen. But I had no idea how that was going to actually work.
Yeah.
And
You don't always got to make a sweat, guy.
right, yeah, he did.
yeah, you did.
Well,
But what? Yeah.
And
Anyways,
the
go
way
ahead.
that all the things work, because I thought, okay, well, it'll be cheaper if we just go for the house route, so let's do that. I didn't think about closing costs.
Yeah.
I didn't think about down
Uh-huh.
payment. I
Uh-huh.
wasn't thinking about any of that, and then
Uh-huh.
furnishing it, all of those
Yeah.
things. But just through God leading it all, we'd paid ahead of time for a cruise that we were going to go on in the summer. It gets shut down because
okay.
of COVID.
Yeah.
Now we've got several $1,000s sitting in the bank that we can be
Yeah.
able to use for
Okay.
closing costs.
Well,
And then
the other big thing was me getting sent home. March. Me getting sent home in March allowed me to. I went back to In-N-Out. In-N-Out never closed during COVID,
Okay.
and we were running full time all the time, and
Uh-huh.
I was there every day because we started talking about it like, oh shoot, like this is going to take something, you know what I mean? We were detailing cars.
Yeah.
I would go at like 7-8 a.m. in the morning. We would do 2 or 3 cars, and then I'd go at
Yeah.
10 or 11 to In-N-Out, work
Yeah.
4, 5, 6 hours, and then come home, chill out, go to sleep,
Yeah.
wake up, do it again.
So let's
But-
talk a little bit about that too. Is as far as obviously you guys, you've got a little bit of lump sum cash that you can use. You've got
Mhm.
you're working after you coming home after when COVID sent everybody home.
Mm-hmm.
As a first time home buyer, what was kind of you bought the house for how much was the purchase price on the house?
It was
172.
172, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
172 because it was on.
No, I think
it was on the market for
I think it was 176 or 177 what we went for.
Yeah, because
then,
it was on the market for
the realtor set us up with a lender that she knew. Like we trusted her through the whole process, so she gave us a lender as well. That lender found a first-time home buyer program out of Oklahoma, so they did a 3 or 3.5% down payment grant,
which
that brought the price.
So it was a FHA loan. So FHA loan obviously is the 3.5% down requirement for the down payment.
Yeah,
that's in addition to the closing costs that a buyer typically is responsible for.
So the down payment was there through that grant, which I think is where the 172 comes from. And that's what we ended up financing was 172.
Okay.
And then
the down payment took care of the full 3.5%.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was a grant, so nothing owed back. First time home buyer deal.
Yeah. Probably had some requirements on how long you had to stay there. You obviously had to be your primary residence.
Yes.
Yeah, primary residence was the biggest thing. I think it was like a 2-year requirement or something like that, but I was going to be in school for the next 3, so we're like, cool. Yeah. Sweet. Like we're set on all that stuff,
And then so there was the closing costs is where you guys and then furnishing the home.
Closing costs and furnishing. And so
did you guys furnish the bedrooms for the tenants coming in? They took care of their own furnishing.
So then and even now for the new tenants that are coming in, I've told them that their bedrooms are their areas, and so they're responsible for that. But as far as communal areas like the living room, kitchen, stuff like that, I've got a fridge for them. I've got so we did all that. Okay. We got the fridge, we got the couch, we got the TVs.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
In a minute, but it did. What was that kind of the closing cost that you were kind of trying to come up with? Do you remember?
I want to say they were around $8,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think that was total with furnishing and stuff like that. I think because y'all were about 4,500, and I was about $4,000. I think.
Maybe somewhere in there. It might have been like 6,500 for closing costs, and then the rest was furnishing.
So y'all are purchasing a $175,000 home. $8,000 to $9,000 down, including furnishing
for
home.
So
total moving cost about $8,000 to $9,000.
Yeah, that sounds
probably
right.
about that. That sounds right.
Yeah,
because I remember through working and everything like that, I ended up putting about 4.5, and then they had another about 4.5 into it for. We were about even on that. What we put into it between furnishing,
and then as you guys were getting qualified for the loan.
Yeah.
What was that process like as far as, you're 19 years old at this time. You've had some work history, but you don't necessarily have the work history to prove that you can make this mortgage payment. Obviously, you've got plans that are going to take care of the mortgage payment, but you don't have that work history to show that you can take care of it yourself. Yeah. So you want to talk a little bit, you guys talk a little bit how that process worked.
A big part of that roots back down to the way that he raised us, and especially him being able to trust me, that I would take care of it, because co-signing was pretty much the only way that it happened. Just because he had the work history, he had the the financial stability to be able to co-sign on it, for them to basically say that if I default on this loan, then he's going to be responsible for it. Now, just because he could qualify for it, does that mean that that's something that he's going to want to or be able to pay for every month if I didn't do anything? So that really came down to a decision and conversation between the two of us of, hey, this is going to take a lot of responsibility, out of me to make sure that these things are handled, because if I don't handle them, then they're coming back on him, since he is that co-signer, that defaulter.
Did you guys have any steps or processes in place where you could at least confirm that was being handled, or was it a complete like, hey, Jacob's got this?
No, I mean, I just trusted him in it. Yeah. As far as how I wanted to do it, I wanted the home to be in his name. That way it's his house and he's taking care of it. That way he has that ownership. Yeah.
Which also allows, because if it's in your name, it's not, you don't get any of the first time home buyer benefits. Right. It's not your primary residence. You don't qualify for that low, that 3.5% down payment. Yeah. Obviously you don't get the grant. Yeah. Exactly. So, not only obviously for just the benefits of his financial future, but for the benefits of being able to get in at a down payment.
Well,
Right. And I don't even think I thought about that at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
I just knew I wanted it to be his.
Yeah.
So one thing we did do right when he turned 18, we got him a, student credit card
Yeah.
to start building his credit.
Yep.
And so he could put his name on the loan. He had a good credit score already.
Uh-huh.
The only thing he didn't have was the financial backing to show
Right.
that he could afford it. And so that's where we came in as co-signers. But
Yeah.
when we went to closing day, it's all in his name. And then
Yeah.
Betty and I signed as co-signers as well.
Yeah, that is a piece of information that I completely forgot about. Yeah, right after I turned 18, it was the same month that I turned 18 that I applied for and got a credit card.
Uh-huh.
And it's a student one. You didn't need any previous credit or anything like that. It's for college students typically, but
$500 limit.
Yeah.
That's what it started.
it was a
as?
$1,500 to start out.
Beginning.
Yeah, it was $1,500 start out, but then they also had it was through Discover. It's their Discover It student, and I stand by it. Mason ended up getting it. My fiance got her first credit card with it. Another one of my buddies that's commissioned into the
What
Air
kind
Force
of
with
what
me
kind of
recently.
preparation do you feel like you had going into getting a credit card? As
Yeah,
far as
so-
like, did you have an understanding of what type of interest rates credit
Mhm.
cards charge when you don't pay off, and what, kind of obviously, a lot of students get themselves into a lot of trouble with a credit card
Mhm.
if they don't know how to use it
Yeah.
responsibly.
And so that was one of the first things that, we talked about is, okay, how am I going to use this? And this is the same advice that I've given to all my friends that I've referred to get this card, and my brother included, my fiance as well, it was cool because it did come with like a 12 or 18 months 0% interest. So that was cool, awesome. And then it also did like the first year of cash back that you get, they matched it at the end of it. And so the way that we discussed it is basically, hey, just use this the same way that you use your debit card, but you're getting money back for it.
Yeah.
And so leverage it, but don't use it as actual credit. Don't carry a balance
Yeah.
past when you have the
Interest rate starts kicking
free
in.
interest rate, you know what I mean? Because at that point you dig yourself into a hole and you end up getting
Yeah.
behind on something that you may not pay off for another 5 years. And so that was really cool. I was able to do that. Just used it as my
So there was
debit
some
card.
intentional conversations
Yes.
between
Yeah,
y'all
there was.
before you got your card.
So I used it as my
Definitely.
debit card, and then, but also when I did some modifications to my Jeep at the time. I did lift, rims, tires, the whole shebang. But because I had that, I was able to put it on there, and with the 0%, I was able to carry a balance for
Yeah.
a little bit and just pay that off over time
Yeah.
with 0%, and so that helped
Yeah.
out my credit. So then coming into
So I think that's an important part. I mean, just stop you for a second.
Yeah.
It's just is knowing yourself.
Yeah.
And so there's some of us that I think can do well in being disciplined to make sure that
Mhm.
that's paid off and have a plan to get it paid off. And
Yep.
there's some of us that that really would need to stay away from
Yep.
that type of situation because
Exactly.
we've got to almost pay with cash
Yeah.
to kind of stay
Yeah.
out of getting
Mhm.
ourselves in trouble with interest rates. But it's great that you, I think we're disciplined in getting that stuff paid off and also establishing some credit for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be a
Earning.
good tool to establish that credit, but you have to do it the right way.
Yeah.
So the number one rule for him was to never pay interest on a credit card.
Yeah.
Never carry a
Mm.
balance.
Yeah.
He had the 0% introductory. So we talked about that.
Yeah.
Okay, you can do this much.
Yeah.
It's going to cost you this much
Right.
every month.
Yeah.
You'll pay it off by this date.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
I
then-
think that's the
Mm.
thing is that so many people that do get in trouble with credit cards that I've heard about is they like, oh, it's free money. I can pay it back whenever I want. And then after they've accrued so much interest, then
Yeah.
they start learning of how a credit card
Yeah.
actually works. And so, yeah, just for me and for other parents, just being really clear in those
Yeah.
communications about those finances.
Yeah, that is
important.
big because that was the goal from the very beginning, is never pay a dime of interest on a credit card or anything besides like a loan, like a home loan or an auto loan, something like that. And so still to this day, I have 100% payment history. I've never missed a payment,
Yeah,
never been late
that's
on a
great.
payment, and never paid a cent of interest on a credit card.
Yeah.
But
And-
just because of that quick installment there at the beginning.
And that kind of goes into why I didn't have any checks or balances in place as far as
Mhm.
him paying his mortgage.
Yeah.
Because he had already established that history
Yeah.
with the credit card. He knew
Yeah.
he paid every month. You
Yeah.
set it up.
Yeah.
And so it was the same with the
Yeah.
house. I
Yeah.
told him, okay, here's when it's due. Here's how you set it up through your bank, and
Yeah.
it'll
Yeah.
automatically take it out.
Yeah.
and have that in place, and then just trusting him to do it. And
Yeah.
the conversation like, hey, did you make sure it was paid on time this month? Yeah, take care of it. Okay,
and
cool.
then it goes kind of goes back to, obviously each parent and child is going to be in a little bit different situation. We all have different personalities, different experiences, and so just thinking about a little bit, how this could be possible for people who don't necessarily have that trust level built up yet. There are ways that, I think, even just being able, if you were always able to log in to the mortgage statement, or to the account, or if you set up it in a way that it was Jacob's responsibility to pay you, until you're off the mortgage, or however that works, then you're always making sure that payment's happening. And so, I think there just are some strategies that parents can use to, if they want to move forward in this way with their child, to kind of set them up like this. There are it's just some strategies that can help make that happen.
And I think those are good ways, because it's going to be unique to every family as far as, how it works. And I think that's a good idea too, to be able to check on that. And it just depends on your situation.
Yep, absolutely. So let's get back to your house. You've got a great realtor. She's kind of weeding out the properties that you don't need to see. You're living in DFW, so having somebody that you can trust, find something that you're really looking for is helpful for you there. But you guys find a house in July. It's a 4-bedroom. Purchased it for $172.
Yeah, and so starting to look at them.
Roommates already kind of in place.
Yeah, exactly.
We probably found it at the end of June, I think.
Yeah, I think we found it at the end of June. It was probably just after your birthday. Birthday would be June 23rd. So it was like in between his birthday and so probably the last week of June that we actually found it, because we closed on like July 20 something like that. Yeah. But we had already put offers in on 2 others. But even with those, it was kind of just to a point of, I think we were fighting God a little bit, and the trust. We were just like we got to make an offer on something. And they weren't, they weren't exactly what we were looking for. They're a little bit older, and then a little bit just kind of like not really the setup that we were looking for. Is a way to put it. But those fell through. People were coming in and they were offering $6,000-$7,000 over asking price. We're like, we were struggling just to like ask for, so there's no way we're winning those bidding wars, right? With this one, I think what's funny is he didn't even know until we had already closed that Carol actually never put eyes on this one before we put an offer in. We all saw it on Zillow. It was about 10:30 at night. And he saw it on Zillow and did you send it to me? Or something.
You were there at the house.
Yeah, but I was upstairs though. So I was upstairs and I looked at it, and then I came back downstairs because I was already about to go to sleep. So I think maybe he texted it to me because he was down in the garage, either working out or hanging out in there with the pups or something. But whatever, just scrolling through Zillow, and I think he sent it to me. And then I looked at it. I was like, dude, this is legit. Like, I like this a lot. And so I went downstairs. We were like, kind of like start getting that feeling in your chest, just that excitement, and kind of like, this might be it, you know what I mean? And so I texted her then at that time, and she was up, and like she got right on a phone call with me, and she was like, hey, this does look like exactly what you are wanting, whatever. And so for her, she knew the realtor that was selling it, and she was like, okay, this person's not going to be behind something that is going to be trash or any different than what they're advertising. I know them, I trust them. So if you want, we can go ahead and get an offer drawn up. I'll start working on it tonight. And we like quick discussion. It's probably like 5-10 minutes. We're like, let's go for it. Cool. And so then that night, she was working on drawing up the offer, and then I was writing a letter to the current owners, just to kind of explain my situation, what I'm doing, what I'm trying to do, and things like that. And I think that had a huge, impact on what the final decision ended up being, because he recommended that I do that because for them to understand that, hey, we might not be y'all's, biggest offer or anything like that, but this is what we're trying to do. We're doing it out of, a noble heart, and I'm young, just trying to set myself up and take care of, other people at the same time with it.
And having her as a realtor, I still was never hands off, even though you have a realtor out there, because she's got a lot of work she's got
Yeah.
to do,
Sure.
and this is important to me. So I'm constantly checking, and I would check several times a day to see if anything new popped
That's
up.
important. Yeah.
That Friday night, it popped up, and it had been on for maybe an hour.
Yeah.
And so showed him, he liked it. He got with her. We said, yes, we like this one because it was exactly what we want. He was like, man, this is perfect. It's
Yeah.
almost too good to be true type
Yeah.
deal. The price was right, everything.
I think it
And,
was listed for 168, and we ended up going over.
we went over a
Yeah.
little, yeah.
Yeah.
But he got with her. She did the contract. We go into Saturday, and she's like, okay, they already have three
Three or four offers already, and we literally submitted. We started working on our offer like 30 minutes after it was listed. So
Yeah.
this is the insanity of what the market looks
Yeah.
like right now.
Yeah.
So she gets the offer in, and then comes back and tells them that they closed off to any other offers, and they're going to take their best one and let everybody know by Sunday
Sunday.
night at 6
Yeah.
p.m. I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
And so he submitted the letter,
Yep.
and then it was just a waiting game,
Yeah.
kind of see where we're going to go from
But
there.
She also discussed about us going up on our offer because I think we offered like asking
Oh,
price
right,
at
yeah.
first.
Yeah.
We offered the 168, and she was like, "Hey guys, like just to be
Yeah.
like upfront with y'all, I know how much you like this house. I haven't recommended this on the
Yeah.
other ones because it wasn't
Yeah.
perfect, and I
Yeah.
didn't think that y'all should spend any more for those.
Yeah.
But this one is legit." And if y'all want it, this is just the reality of things.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to go a little bit over.
Yeah.
And so we took that advice and we
Yeah.
went up. I guess it was to
It wasn't a huge amount, but
it
I
was
think
maybe
around $3,000.
like $3 or $4,000
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
top of the offer. So
And then that's great that you already had that relationship with her. That she's not just trying to get you to make the
No.
highest offer on any house that
Yeah.
she can just make a sale and get out of there.
Exactly.
And she really wants you to find
Mhm.
the right property for what you need. So you guys win the bid.
Yeah.
So tell me, let's get into the weeds a little bit about the numbers. What was your mortgage payment? What utilities, and then and what did you end up? You had some projections that you were going to hope you were hoping to at least cover most of your cost. So how did that end up working out? For
yeah,
you?
we had estimated that, with the houses that we were looking at, I think we were probably looking between like 160 and 185 ish was going to
Right.
be like what we were looking at. So this fell right in there on, and we had estimated somewhere between 1,000 and like 1,300 or something like that for the mortgage. When it was all said and done, my mortgage was $1,181 a month. And
that includes
that's
your,
with escrow and everything.
Yeah.
And so then we
and
just had
PMI,
utilities on top of that.
Did you have PMI included in that
I
initial?
don't.
It had
Probably.
to have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
assume.
I'd
'Cause
assume
we
so,
only
yeah.
put us with-
Yep.
Yeah.
So all of it.
So we had that, but that was everything that I was paying to the for the
Yeah.
mortgage loan.
Yeah.
Taxes, insurance,
tax-
PMI,
yeah.
and principal and interest.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's all of that, and then we had estimated probably $300 to $400 in utilities
Okay.
for 4 people being there,
Uh-huh.
and so for 3 roommates charging $550 a month, I'm making $1,650. And so then
So $1,650 a month.
A
Three
month.
three roommates.
3 roommates.
Yeah.
So $550 by 3
Mhm.
got $1,650 is what I'm bringing in.
Mhm.
Initially, we had estimated that I could probably count on about $1,500 total with utilities and stuff, and maybe bring in $150 on top.
And
every
you're
month.
talking about covering your utility costs
Utilities
as well.
and everything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So that was what we, what I kind of set out to do is, $550 is very reasonable, especially comparatively to what everybody else is paying.
Yeah.
And so everybody's paying $650 plus utilities. And so we're like, okay, $550, they get to paint the rooms, do whatever the heck they want, whenever they want. They've got the space to park in a garage or driveway and stuff. So we're like, yeah, still helping them out, but also I don't even have to pay for my utilities
Yeah.
and possibly
Yeah.
making some money.
So you're really actually living for free, and you have on top of your
100%.
utility, and then you have about $100 cash flow on top of all that.
Yes. So initially, that's how it ended up.
Yep.
Moving forward, we did have our air conditioning went out.
Uh-huh.
And so what I was able to do with that, instead of shelling out $12,000 and $14,000, they put us on just a payment plan with no interest. And so we're paying for that monthly. And what that ended up doing was pretty much making me break even every month.
Yeah.
So that was about $140 a month.
Is that
And
paid
so-
off now?
No, that's still on
How
there.
long is that? The term
that
of
was what, like
I think it's like a
8
10-year
yeah, like 10
deal.
years, I think.
Okay.
But
And so it comes with like a protection plan. They
Yeah,
come and
yeah.
change the filters. They do the maintenance on it. They do
Yeah.
everything. If anything goes wrong with the AC over that amount of time,
Yeah.
they fix it. Like
Yeah.
there won't be another dime out of pocket.
yeah, there's
So that was a
and-
no interest
yes.
payment
yeah.
plan.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
And
And part of
so-
service experts. So like the reason that I like the plan so much rather than just going on like 0% interest to pay for the thing, this ended up being like $20 extra a month. But now when I'm renting out the house, because
Yeah.
by this point we had kind of thought about, what will I do when I move out?
Yeah.
But also I like to go home a lot. And
Yeah.
so if I wasn't home, but something happened to it or whatever, I wanted it to be,
You already have
taken care
somebody
of.
to-
And so with
automatic.
this, they've got like a 24 to 48 hour guarantee that it's going to be taken care of and fixed with any issues that happen within
Yeah.
those 10 years.
Right.
And so that gave me the peace of mind to know like, hey, now that I've got new people living there and I'm going to be a pilot training, whatever,
Yeah.
they don't call me.
Yeah.
They call the service experts. I have the number on the
Yeah.
fridge for them, and they can take care of all of that, and they're not paying for anything either. And I can just be let know like, hey, we called them out because this happened, but it's already taken care of
Yeah.
and good, rather than call me. I got to call
Yeah.
a handyman and et cetera.
And you're
So-
still paying the principal down on that. So eventually
Yeah.
you pay it off.
So you're paying
Right.
the principal
And
down.
when you go to sell, you either just pay them the remaining balance
Right.
Mhm.
or the other people can take over the contract and now their AC
Okay.
is taken care of.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
If we were to sell the house.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So so now you've got your house. It was already it was move-in ready.
Yep.
Essentially.
Yeah.
You've got a brand new AC, and you've got a monthly plan on that, but you're breaking even. You've
Yeah.
got zero living costs as far as shelter.
Yeah, for the last 3 years.
Zero living costs as far as utilities.
Yep.
You're buying your food at this
Yeah.
point. So you move from $1,100 a month payment in the dorm, factoring in a 9-month year or
Sure.
something, to $0 plus your food.
Yep.
So it sounds great. So the AC, it was obviously one part of the house maintenance that you learned. Did you have any other setbacks or?
Yeah. So the plumbing, something happened for some reason to where under the ground where the plumbing's coming out of
Yeah.
my house, it cracked.
Yeah.
And so that was
There was a
feeding
root?
back. Yeah,
Okay.
there was a root that grew through the pipe or whatever,
Yeah.
and so that was cracked and broken. And
So
so
the pipe under your house, or was it?
No,
was
it was out in my
the
yard.
Okay.
And so it was already feeding out and down and like almost in the neighbor's yard, feeding into the main sewage line. It was probably only like 10 feet from the main sewage line where
Yeah.
that happened. And but
Almost
what
to
it-
the city's responsibility.
Yeah, I know, right? It was
Yeah,
legitimate.
not quite.
I think it was only like a couple feet from city's responsibility,
Yeah.
but then like 10 to the main sewage line. But
Yeah.
so that happened. But the reason that we noticed it is like sediment and like stuff from the sewage started coming up like into the bathtubs,
Uh-huh.
and so that would just be like
That's
sitting
fun.
there, and then
Yeah.
like stuff would come up through the sewage lines, and then stuff wasn't draining right and
Right.
everything, and I'm just like, hey, this sounds terrible. Like this
Uh-huh.
is rough. So called him. We started figuring out. I was just like, man, I guess we got to get somebody out there.
Yeah.
So we called somebody that came and checked on it, and they fixed it at first, and then it happened again or whatever. So we were
Well, they
like,
just kind of snaked it.
yeah, they snaked it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, I
But
guess from
he
there,
did say, I think, because he did that snake and it like destroyed a snake.
yeah,
It's like
So he
something's
said,
not-
"There's something in there. This
Yeah.
works for now, but if it comes back up, like it's going
Yeah.
to continue to be a problem."
Yeah.
yeah,
So then, a few weeks later, it happens again, and so it's like, well, let's see what it takes to actually fix it. And
Yeah.
I think that ended up $3,000.
it was a little over, like in between 2 and 3.
Yeah, somewhere
Yeah.
around there.
Okay.
So it cost that, and that's a thing to think about as a parent, to be able to help him out. Obviously, he doesn't have that kind of money sitting there, but it needed
Yeah.
to get done.
Yeah.
So then we paid that part, and
Okay.
then he was able to pay us back over time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So with that was also just part of the blessing, was that they're able to have the cash on hand to, get that fixed, because it's not so much of, oh, I can deal with it for a little bit. Like I've got other people that are counting on me, and they've, I've told them that they've got a place to live and that it's going to be livable, and so that it has to be taken care of. And so thankfully they had that, and then I was able to pay them back. So part of like paying for my food and stuff, the Air Force did give me a stipend monthly for being on scholarship. That's and so I do like that was paying for my food and everything. But yeah, so then that was one of the big things, but that's also part of what gives me the peace of mind going into renting out with me not being there, is a lot of that preventative maintenance and necessary stuff that you could end up running into has already been taken care of. I had to, one of my roommates broke the microwave, had to get a new one of those. Another one broke the stove, so I had to get a new one of those. But those things are now, they're taken care of. They're brand new. They're great appliances that these people can count on. The fridge is new. We bought that as well. And so,
and even if things do go, there's always gonna be a possibility for something to happen, go wrong. But just you being there for the first 3 years, having that experience as a homeowner, living there, I think, gives you a lot of confidence and ability to handle those situations, even now that you're going to be removed from that place. And
no, definitely. Great. I mean, we got just unexpected things that happen. I think that I've gone through quite a few of them with that house to just help me understand. We got hit by a tornado back in February. And so dealing with insurance, still currently dealing with insurance and getting that all finalized and make sure that everything's done the right way and taken care of.
Y'all were home when that happened.
Yeah. It was
pretty intense.
And
you've got a storm, you're in Oklahoma. But you've got a storm shelter in the garage, right?
So just a quick sidebar to tell the story on that. We were hanging out. Me, my brother, my 2 roommates were home, and then my now fiance, then girlfriend, were hanging out at the house. And storms started rolling in, but it's Oklahoma. Tornado sirens go off every other week, and it's just like, okay, like cool. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll see, but probably not, right? And so gotten way too comfortable with them, to be honest, and go outside and check at the sky and whatever. And we were out there. I was on FaceTime with him. I was like, hey man, what do you think? Like, you think we're good, whatever? Like, but I do remember now, like looking back at it, like this is different than anything that I've ever seen before, because like it was pitch black outside. But it was pitch black outside, but there was constant lightning, like just over and over and over and over and over, like to where you could see bright as day, even though it's the middle of the night. It was weird. And so like now seeing that it was like that kind of anomaly, I was like, I probably should have been a little bit more alarmed, but you don't know until like you've experienced it. And so even he was like, no, y'all should be fine. We'll keep an eye on it. Just to be safe, go, open up the storm shelter and start to clear it out. It's like, all right, whatever. Had Layla and Mason and one of my other roommates, Nico, stay inside the house with Delta, my dog, and they were hanging out in there, just in the living room, and me and my buddy, my other roommate, Alonzo, went into the garage to open it up. We opened it up. There were some leaves in there or whatever. I just grabbed the leaf blower. I was about to start blowing it out, and then all of a sudden it just sounded like really heavy rain, right? No, it was debris hitting the house, and I was like, golly, like it's coming down on me, right? And I'm on the phone with him, and then all of a sudden I just hear boom on my garage. I think one of them was the tree had fallen down. It hit my girlfriend's car and my roommate's car, and then also the wind, the pressure from the tornado going over us was so great that it was pushing our garage door in, and so that was part of the garage door was bending and buckling, and so boom, and then it did it. I was like, dang, what the heck? Like, didn't know if hail, I don't know. I was a little bit naive at that point, just didn't know.
I was on the phone. He was like, I think my garage door's about to blow in. I was like, well, get out of there.
I was like, I think it's about to come in. And
I love that you guys were on the phone together.
I'm on FaceTime with them. I'm holding the phone like this and just like, hey, what do you think? And then it hit like that. And so after it hit, that's when I knew, like, okay, we need to get out of here. Like, we don't need to be in this garage. That's for sure. Even though the storm shelter's right here, like, everybody else is in there. My responsibility is to take care of them. And so after that second one, I had already started moving.
Yeah.
But then I look and my roommate's just completely frozen. He
Yeah.
didn't know what to do. He just stuck and he was just like this. And so I was like, dude, you gotta go. Grabbed him and like running inside with him. And as we're running inside, we've got like an attic entrance or whatever. It's just like a piece of plywood in the laundry room. The pressure had broken out some of the side paneling from my roof or whatever and gotten into the attic. And so then it blew that out down on top of us. So I'm running in with him like this, and that comes down, smacks me on the back. I'm like, what the heck is that? I don't know what it is, but I want to get out. Kept running, slammed the doors. I was like, everybody get in the bathroom now. So got everybody in there. We just huddled down, put some stuff on top of us, and just waited it out for a little bit. And still really didn't know that it was an actual tornado, or like maybe like wind got really bad or whatever.
Right.
But like you don't expect or think that like, oh, a tornado just touched down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How long were you in the bathroom waiting?
We were only in there for about like 5 to 10 minutes. It
Oh.
happens really quick. Yeah, we were just hanging out in there, and it was instant, and then boom, it was just gone.
Yeah.
No more noise, no more anything. We come back out of the bathroom. There's insulation all over the house, whatever, because it had blown out from the roof through that hole
So
that
you're
came
just
out.
grabbing your friend because he
Mhm.
doesn't know what to do.
No, because he's stuck staying still. Yeah, which probably not the greatest idea, but yeah. Yeah, so ran in with him. Then we get outside. Oh, we get out of the thing, and I'm like, I'm gonna go check outside because that sounded pretty rough.
Yeah.
Assuming, maybe cars, like a little bit of hail or something like that. That's what I thought. Maybe hail and wind, but nothing crazy. So then me and my brother go outside with flashlights or whatever because it's still pitch black.
Yeah.
And that was one of the craziest things that I've ever seen, because so the entire street was pink with
Yeah.
insulation.
Whoa.
So
like all the houses got.
the tornado touched down on our street, like in the cul-de-sac that we live in,
Oh.
and just blew through. And so my neighbors, as I'm looking, no roofs, like windows busted out, like tire back halves of houses are
Yeah.
gone. And then we started moving down the street, and there was a house that had pretty much completely fallen over.
It's wild.
Um,
It's crazy.
Most
how
people didn't have garage doors anymore.
A tornado can come through like
Just
that and just
hops.
like pick
And so it's
choose
yeah,
which-
and
Pretty
so that's just another testament to how God does things, because none of us were ready, because we walked through
Yeah.
some of the other houses, like literally 2 houses down,
Yeah.
and they're just shredded.
Yeah.
The entire inside of them, like
Yeah.
the living room's exactly where my brother, my girlfriend, and everybody else was standing.
right.
Like
Wouldn't
the
have survived
glass
in
had,
that
no,
house.
not at all.
Right.
And especially with us being in the garage, most people's garages were just gone. Like
Yeah.
they weren't there anymore.
Yeah.
And so to think about the fact that it did hop over ours, because our neighbor here, their entire roof was gone, and the
Yeah.
back half of their house was torn to pieces.
Yeah.
And then the other one on the other side of me, their roof was gone, and their garage was completely blown in.
Yeah.
And they didn't, like, everything in the garage was destroyed.
Now you're dealing with insurance. You're
Yeah.
still in that process, but
Yeah.
How many people were like home during the tornado?
So this is the middle of the night. It hit at about 10
Oh.
p.m.
so most people
And so
probably
most
home.
people were home. And so that's the crazy part about it, is like this stuff is completely destroyed, but there were no injuries. I think there was 12 minor injuries, like scrapes and
Yeah.
bruises, and most of them happened after the tornado, of people trying to
Yeah. Get
you know,
out.
get out, or
Get to
like
their
get
stuff.
other people out
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But it was really, really neat to kind of see the community come together, though, because me, my brother, and my roommates were out there with flashlights, and we knocked on every single door. Got to thankfully see everybody walk out of their
Yeah.
homes. Fire department gets there, and we were out there, we're young guys, and they're like, "Hey, you mind helping us out? Like, there's this old lady in this house, whatever. There's so many guys spread
Yeah.
out. Like, we need some help
Yeah.
getting her out." And
Yeah.
so we were able, but that was like the granite countertops were on the ground, broken in half.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the sheer force
That's
of
pretty crazy.
what happened. So to
Yeah.
see that, and it was wild, because like these people had been there since the house was built
Yeah.
in 2002. And so over 20 years that they've been in this house, and all their memories are in there with them. And so stepping over, family pictures and DVDs and everything that they've accrued over 20
Right.
something years in this house was really sobering, and just like,
Yeah.
wow, like God is good, though, because they were in their bedroom. They didn't have a storm shelter. They're in their bedroom, and the entire house fell down around them. Like everything that
Yeah.
we're stepping over, like, so when we walk in, this side of the house had completely buckled like this, and so it was leaning, and you could just see straight outside into the street.
Yeah.
And then the whole back half of their house, like where their back door and everything, had legitimately just fallen.
Yeah.
Like just the whole framing of it, just boom. And then inside, the glass had come through and all the debris. The walls, all the paint is completely shredded. It looked like somebody came through and shot up the house because there's holes in all the walls and just all the paint's ripped off the walls. Their couch is flipped over by where their TV is, and like their TV has holes in it and stuff. It was just wild. But then we walked into their room and it was completely untouched. Yeah. And that's where they were hanging out, and that's where, you know, they stayed, and we were able to help her get out. And but it was definitely wild. But then moving into dealing with insurance and stuff, I was talking to some of my neighbors as they were dealing with it, and they're like, man, I'm 56 years old and I've never had to deal with insurance on a home claim. You know what I mean? So they were, even in that, they were like communicating with me how blessed I am to be able to, one, nobody was hurt, anything like that, but then get this type of experience at this age to understand how these types of things work. Because moving forward, investing in real estate, things like that may or may not happen, but if they do, now I'm prepared.
That's great. Yep. So your house, and I guess moving into now that you're graduated, thoughts on how you'll be using your home now, and that you've kind of already alluded to. You're going to continue renting that home out for the foreseeable future. No plans to sell at this point, or
it's tempting, honestly, to sell, because with Oklahoma, the way the market works,
and that's what we can speak to the numbers a little bit there. First is you know, you bought the house for 172. You've got a loan for the AC at about 10,000 ish.
Yeah, it's
probably a little less than that.
Yeah,
okay,
it's a lot. It's a lot less.
And then you put $3,000 in for the plumbing. So you're sitting around 170, 180, 190. 185. About 185 is what you know, not including interest and whatever. But you haven't paid any of that interest yourself.
Haven't paid any of the interest, haven't paid any of the money down. So I think the loan is sitting low 160s right now, like 161 ish. But you know, with COVID and everything and the real estate boom, obviously here in Texas, we've experienced it. Went way, way up, it inflated, and then it kind of started to settle down a little bit, but not too bad. But Oklahoma didn't really ever inflate like crazy. It went up a decent bit, but it stayed. And so it's still the same. It's still steady. And so my house right now, what would you say? Probably between 230, 240 ish.
That's what I was saying, about 235.
I looked on Zillow. You know, you got to take Zillow estimates
with
a grain of salt.
They say like 142,
but it's like 240.
240. 240 something. And so that's the thing too, is we're going through the process of remodeling some stuff, putting new floorings and everything, and then obviously it's got the new air conditioning, new plumbing, new stove, a lot of, you know, really things that have kind of modernized it and helped make it stand out as compared to the other houses that are surrounding it, because even some of the houses next door that are the same models, they don't, mine is painted more modern, it's painted gray, and the interior is better kept up, and you know, stuff like that. And so marketability is
so not even thinking about what you can get cash flow on the property now. You've got about $70,000 of equity if you sold the property.
So today. 70 to 80 grand in equity in the house right now. And so that is tempting, you know, to be able to come out of college, walk away, and have, you know, this lump of cash, you know,
instead of $100,000 of student loans.
Yeah, exactly.
You've not only got I mean, obviously not everybody's going to go into the military, but there are different ways. And a lot of people can, you know, after hearing the story. You know, it's just, it's an option that maybe some people don't think about, getting their school paid for in that way. That is something that I do want to highlight, is especially with the Air Force, is we have our branch has the largest selection of civilian jobs that are in the military. We have everything from, you know, finances to accountants to just straight up like business workers. And so like people have got to handle the way that we get paid, mechanics, engineers. And so we have the largest selection of, you know, non-combat military. And so like my buddies that are going in as engineers. And so they typically are they committed to a 4-year service stint after graduating.
Exactly. And so it's 4 years for 4 years. And, you know, mine's a little bit different. I'm going to fly. They're putting a little over $2 million training
Yeah.
into me,
So a
and so they
longer
want to keep me
commitment.
around for 10 years.
Yeah.
But that's what I want to do my whole
Right.
life. So it's not really,
Right.
it's
You're
not
gonna be
really that
there
big of a
anyways.
decision for me.
Yeah.
I'd be there if the commitment was 5 years.
Yeah.
But the cool thing, when I was talking to my buddy that decided to come and, try out the program, he wanted to be an engineer. And so that's what a lot of my friends are doing, is being engineers. We've got everything from civil engineers that design and make the bases, make the runways,
Yeah.
to, mechanical engineers and aerospace engineers that
Yeah.
help design the jets. But the cool thing with that is that when you go in, you are immediately working on projects, and you are a project team lead as a second lieutenant, because you're an officer and you've got a team of enlisted engineer workers that are working under you.
Yeah.
Versus when you go into the civilian world straight out of,
Yeah.
out of college, you are one of the people that's just working on a team, and
Yeah.
it takes you typically, from what my friends have talked to me about, it's 8 to 10 years to be able to be even project lead.
To get that experience.
Exactly. And so for those types of people,
Yeah.
it's an amazing opportunity,
Yeah.
because they can come in, and after 4 years, they've got the same experience
Yeah.
as somebody with 10 to 12
15,
years,
yeah.
15 years, and they get to start their career in the civilian world
Yeah.
at 25 or 26 as a project lead, because
Yeah.
they
So
can
even
go
if they're
in-
getting paid a little bit less while they're the
Right
4
now.
years that they're in the military, they're going to come out of the military at an accelerated
at an
position.
accelerated position. And that's the thing, is it's only a little bit less when you factor in the different benefits that you're getting as
Yeah.
well, because you didn't pay for your school.
Right.
You get your housing, and
Yeah.
you get even stipends for food and things like that
Yeah.
every month. Being an officer, you're very well taken care of. And so then coming out, if you were to go straight into the civilian world, continue using engineer as an example, what you're getting paid, it almost evens out, especially being a junior engineer.
Yeah.
And so these guys, they get to go to whatever engineering firm they want to, and they especially have an easy shoe-in to play defense contractors like
Yeah.
Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, and they can say, hey, I've been working on the B-52s or the F-35s for the last 4 years
Right.
as a project lead. This is what I did for this specific base, or
They've
whatever.
They've probably already been working with
They've
those
already-
contractors before.
Exactly. And so that's they get set up for those types of
Yeah.
things. And so even if you never looked at it before, I think that it's something worth at least researching, because it's not for everybody. It's not something that everybody can do or even should do, but it is a great way to give back, but also just set yourself up for financial freedom in the future as well, to take care of yourself earlier.
Yep. And so let's going back just real quickly to your plans for the house in the
Yes.
future. You've got now 4 tenants moving in. You'll
Yep.
be a remote landlord.
Yep.
What's kind of what will be your cash flow now? Are you still renting the rooms at $550, or has the rent increased?
So
since then?
the way that we were doing it beforehand was the 550 was utilities and everything included.
Okay.
They
Yeah.
just paid that flat fee, and
Yeah.
if the utilities were higher that month and they ended up encroaching over that 1650, then I paid those.
Right.
And then if they were lower, then I made a little bit on top, and it ended up pretty much evening out throughout the year. Now what I'm doing is $500 a month plus utilities. So they are going to pay their own utilities, because I'm not living there anymore. I don't get any say so. I don't get to turn off the lights at night, stuff like that. I don't get to, do any of that stuff to kind of control what the utilities end up looking like.
So you're
so
your monthly payment with your AC is working out to be about $1,300 a month.
So now
taxes
have gone up.
Yeah.
And it's $1,286 a month now, just for the mortgage
plus your AC,
plus my AC, which I think is about $130. So you can say closer to $1,500.
$1,286.
Yeah.
Plus one to 200.
130, 140 ish.
Yeah. So.
Yeah,
so 14
something,
yeah,
but
yeah.
14 something,
and you're
then
bringing in 2,000,
bringing in 2,000.
so
a month.
it's about $550.
Yeah,
$550
$500 to
a month
$600 a month
on an $8,000 initial down payment house.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, when you do the math there, that's like about it's over $6,000 a year. So even if it was $6,000 a year on an $8,000 payment, that's getting close to like 80% return investment on your money. So it's pretty nuts, not including any of your appreciation. So it gets astronomical at that point.
That's what I was talking about earlier, is it is tempting to have that type of, just cash to, go maybe buy another home or do whatever with, and but looking at it to be fiscally responsible and set myself up for the future. This house doesn't make sense to sell because we've got a 3.25% interest rate on it, and that just doesn't exist right now.
Yeah.
And so to take that out and try to invest into another home, we're almost guaranteeing that we lose money on that. And so, and just for the distinct opportunity of the fact that I still know people that are going to the university.
Yeah.
And so these people that are moving in are still some of my friends. They're just younger, and they've got 2 more years at the university and plan on living there for the next 2 years. And so that's money that I can count on, that $2,000 a month for the next 2 years, at least.
Yeah. And you're still providing them a great place to stay
for a lot cheaper than they would pay anywhere else as well. And they, with them, it's my only house. So a lot of landlords, they'll say no holes in the wall, stuff like that. And that makes sense when you've got 500, 600 units, you're dealing with apartments and townhomes and things like that. For me, I've got the one. So, I'm able to give them a lot of freedom. Like, hey, like if you want to hang something up in your room or you want to repaint your room, go for it. Like I'm gonna let y'all do what y'all want to do, because I got to enjoy my college experience in that way. I think that it's cool that if I'm able to give y'all that opportunity, y'all get to do that as well. And y'all are helping me out a lot. So, being able to do that for them is really neat and unique as well. But then the cool thing is moving into the future. If I do move out of renting to college students, my house is only about 20 minutes from the nearest Air Force base.
Okay.
And so one of my lieutenant colonels that was an instructor during my years at the University of Oklahoma, he talked to me about what he does with his house, because he's got about 10 homes. And he said that he loves to rent to people that are also in the military, because you have that automatic checks and balances of if they try to default on their payment, well, hey, I know your commander, not really going to do that type of stuff. And it's kind of that trust network, you know people, and they're like-minded people. And so you really don't end up having to deal with a lot of those issues and stuff like that. But there's also the extra step of security and knowing that, hey, this stuff is going to be paid for, it's going to be taken care of. And so that is also just kind of looking further out into the future of possibilities. Yeah,
so that's great. And so I'll take it back to Luis real quickly, and just as a co-signer, as if there are other parents out there thinking about helping their young adult children in this way, what are some of the? I mean, obviously we've seen a lot of the benefits of you being able to co-sign for Jake on this home. What are some of the drawbacks, or some of the just any kind of difficulties that you've seen as a co-signer on a home that it's not, I mean, obviously it's benefiting you in the way that it's helping your son, and you want to give your kid that leg up. But what are some ways that it's just as a personal situation, it's maybe set you back, or has it?
No, I hadn't really seen negatives. I guess everybody's situation is a little bit different as far as your credit and your ability to extend yourself for what you need. But like for us, we had just bought a new home before we bought this one. So probably 8 months before we had bought our new home. So we weren't planning on moving anywhere else.
Yeah.
And we had the room and our debt to income ratio to be able to qualify to co-sign on this, and it's not hindering us from doing anything else that we'd like to do. We hadn't overextended ourselves in that way.
Yeah.
And then, with Jake, he's been able to take care of the house, take care of whatever comes up, and has been responsible with it. And, just kind of walking that road with him, obviously always there for, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Offering advice. But he takes care of that home. I guess the only other thing is, if some, big expense like the plumbing came up, we stepped in to be able to help, and then slowly got paid back.
Yeah.
So just being aware that there may be issues that arise.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yep. Having a plan.
And having a plan in place to be able to help them through that. But that's as a college student. So now he's starting his career, and he's going to have, his own income and everything like that. Yeah. So now that is off of our plate. And so something that, obviously I don't want to refinance right now. We'd lose money for sure.
Yeah.
But
so
something
and you're talking about refinancing as far as getting your name off of the mortgage.
Yes, to be able to take my name off and it be completely in his name, and it's just his home.
Yeah.
And it's something that you mentioned to me that I want to look into once he does start, and now he's fully in the Air Force getting paid regular checks is to talk to the lender and see if we can pull our name off as a
Renegotiate.
co-signer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then he shown the ability to pay consistent payments over the last 3 years. And now he has a job that's bringing in this X amount of dollars.
Right.
So he can afford to pay for it on his own.
And
see
obviously
if-
that just generally has to come out of the lender's goodness of their own heart. And
Right.
there's not a lot of reasoning why they would want to just let you off the mortgage.
Right.
Obviously, more people on there is more of a guarantee of them getting paid.
So
But it is a possibility, especially I think maybe for some, as a person an officer going into the military with that kind of guaranteed income, it may be something that would work out.
That's something I was thinking about looking at, but also with him having contracts and it being rented out, if we were to go, if we wanted to purchase something else and they see the debt to income, we can show this is bringing in, so that's a wash. That's
so it's just like
so
anybody
it's
else
not-
going out to get another investment property.
Yeah,
It's an investment property. It's being paid for.
Right.
It's actually making money.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
in that sense, I don't feel like it'll hinder us in anything, because the only other thing we've thought about is to be able to help my younger son to do the same.
thing.
So if we can show that this is an investment property, it's covering itself, and now we still have the debt to income ratio to be able to do that, then we can maybe be able to help him in the same way.
Well, that's great. We have now gone. Our conversations lasted over 2 hours, so I mean, I have enjoyed it, and of course, I mean, I had an idea that it would go along just being able to sit down with you guys and having the history that we do, and so I thank you guys so much for being here. I think it, as for folks that can hear your story, I think there are a lot of possibilities for people that may not already see those. Have already seen that possibility, as far as it's just in the mindset of so many of our youth in our country that I go to college, I get loans for college, I come out with $100,000 of debt. That's what everybody's doing, so that's what I have to do. So to see someone do it differently, and to even through the trials and the setbacks of your home ownership experience, to come out 0 student debt, $70,000, $80,000 of home equity, an investment property that you're now cash flowing up to $6,000, $7,000 a year. I think I hope that it is an encouragement to others to think about their finances differently. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time to be here and share your story. And I'm so thankful for the way that you guys together and your family as a whole, not only, we've talked about just this posture of surrender to what God is directing you in, but you do it in a way that you're not taking that credit on for yourself or for what you've done. So thank you for the way that you give God glory in how he has blessed you. So I just want to read one, but before we end, there's anything else you guys want to add or?
Just thanks for the opportunity, because, we work in the same job as, whatever you call it, blue collar, didn't come from money, anything like that. So the opportunity is there of just finding unique ways to do it. So as we were doing it, we didn't really think through all that process. It's just kind of being led.
Yeah.
But for you to see it, bring it out to other people, and then now maybe open the eyes of others, like, hey, I could do that same thing, and set people up to have a different viewpoint, as opposed to just burying themselves in debt like that. I think that's a big thing. So I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to share.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. I did want to put in one last thing. If you are going to be renting to other roommates and something like that, make sure that your contracts are solid. Talk to somebody, get some advice.
Yes.
That is a mistake that I made, and I ended up getting shorted quite a bit of money because I didn't have my contract set up the right way. So just make sure that you talk to the right people. For me, I talked to my legal studies professor for these upcoming contracts, and he was able to set me up with somebody that does contract law in the real estate sector. And so for that, especially if you are going to university, there's a lot of great contacts that are there that you can get access to for free. And so I didn't have to pay him anything for that. Great. And it was awesome. He sent me over exactly what I needed to do.
That's so huge, especially when you're living in the house that you're renting and you're living with your friends and you want to just keep it friendly. To just say from the beginning, and because we learned this in the fire department so much is that when those expectations aren't clear and set, things get messy really quickly.
Exactly.
And so really, as a way to even guard those friendships, if you want to think about it that way, to help you be more explicit in your expectations and get that.
And the reality, I mean, that's a huge thing, because for me, one of my buddies that he ended up having to move out so that we could save our friendship, because those things weren't discussed properly at the beginning. And so just make sure that those things are handled properly and that you talk to somebody that really knows what they're doing. Because for me, I just try to figure it out on my own, and I did it pretty well for the first time, and then I slacked a little bit on the second time just because I figured, there were repeat livers and whatever, and so it didn't have to be as explicit, and it came back to bite me. And so just making sure that you take care of those due diligences, even if they do seem like they're redundant or maybe a little bit unnecessary because they're your best friend. Things happen. And living with people is just different.
That's good advice. Bray, before we leave, what's anything that you learned that you would like to point out or share with us? What's something that was really interesting to you that you think you might be able to take going forward for as you think about how you want to?
Well, I just thought the room thing with all the other people renting the house. I'm not saying this right, but I think they know what I mean. And that's just smart, I think.
Yeah. So you're just talking about the being smart and being able to rent.
Yeah.
Get a 4. They got a 4-bedroom. Got extra roommates.
Being able to save money.
Yeah. Instead of just
still having a house to live in. And,
for
and
free.
Helping others too. Also.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's great.
I appreciate it.
Yep. That's awesome. Yeah. I do want to read just this benediction, really over you as you continue in what God is giving you in your life for your future plans. And then just as anybody is listening, that we would be prepared well by what God has for his work in our lives.
Absolutely.
It's Hebrews 13:20. Now may the God of peace, who brought again from the dead our Lord Jesus, the great shepherd of the sheep, by the blood of eternal covenant, equip you with everything good, that you may do his will, working in us that which is pleasing in his sight, through Jesus Christ, to whom be glory forever and ever. Amen. And that's the end of the show. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
Man. Appreciate it.
As we bring this episode of Real Estate for the Real Good to a close, we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to you, our early listeners. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and we hope that today's discussion has left you both informed and encouraged. If you have any questions about today's episode, please reach out. You can get in touch with me through our Instagram account or by email at nathankarsten@gmail.com. I hope this episode has shown someone that the traditional path of college and student loan debt is not the only option. There are possibilities to set yourself and your family up for financial success, even from an early age, and real estate can be a great tool to help you get there. We look forward to welcoming Kristen back to the podcast in our next episode, in which we'll have the privilege of learning from our friends Brad and Jenny Nethery as they share how they used their home in a unique way to become debt-free. If you enjoyed today's episode and found it valuable, please consider subscribing to our podcast and leaving a review. Your feedback is invaluable in helping us improve and reach more individuals looking to make informed decisions in real estate. You can also find us on our YouTube at For the Real Good or on Instagram at Real Estate for the Real Good. As we part ways for now, we pray that God would bless you and keep you, and that his face would shine upon you as you seek to know him more, trust his will on your life, and surrender to his loving and gentle care.